actually take the time to break down for people. So we talk a lot about breathing in yoga class and how important that is, and people understand that. But we don't necessarily instruct the more healthy and appropriate dynamics of breathing so that we're really supporting the respiratory system. We're not adding more stress to our systems, because if we're breathing in any kind of unhealthy pattern, that actually can do kind of more damage than good. So, first things first, are you a reverse breather? You might think if you don't have any breathing issues that that's not the case, but you might be surprised to find out that many of us, if not most of us, are reverse breathers or sometimes revert into this breathing pattern. So let's find out. Take a big breath in and out, and then do that again one more time. In through the nose if you can, and out through the nose. And I want you to notice the next time we take a deep breath, what is moving when you breathe in and what is moving when you breathe out. So breathe in through the nose and breathe out. Now, did your chest move up when you breathe in? Did your belly draw in, suck in towards the spine when you breathed in? If so, you're a reverse breather. If you're not quite sure and you want to try that again, go ahead and pause the video and do a couple more breaths so you can notice. What happens with most of us is when we're trying to take a deep breath, we think of trying to expand the lungs. And so we'll get really tall, we'll maybe lift up the shoulders, we'll expand the chest out, and our belly has to come in automatically to do that, right? And then we'll kind of sink everything down when we exhale and our belly falls out really big. If you want to see what that would look like from the side, it looks like this. Right? That's reverse breathing. That's not actually how we want to be breathing. There is a natural, relaxed way of breathing that every single mammal does. Right? They've studied other animals, it's not just humans, and it's diaphragmatic breathing. When we breathe this way, our belly actually gets bigger as we inhale, and then it falls in and relaxes as we exhale. Okay? There's not a lot of up and down movement in the chest. We actually don't usually need a lot of movement in the chest when we breathe. Our smaller part of our lungs is up here. The biggest part of our lungs is actually down here. And so we want to get more expansion down low for most of our breathing. We don't really need to move up here until we're kind of at a full run, really active pace. That's when we need all of the space in the lungs to be filled. Otherwise, if we're just sitting relaxing or doing something moderate like walking or gentle yoga practice, we really want to just be focusing on filling up the lower part of the lungs. Right? And the way that we do that is by utilizing the diaphragm. So what happens with reverse breathing is there's some type of tension or stuckness happening with the diaphragm. It can have to do with a lot of different things. Most of them have to do with some type of nervous system interaction, stress, tension, anxiety. I will talk more about that in the blog, and I'm going to link to that down in the description below. I don't want to get into that too much here in the video, but if you're interested, you can definitely learn more about it. So you'll notice if you watch, for example, your dog or cat when they're taking a nap, or if you have a baby when he or she is sleeping and they're breathing. So this is the most relaxed time that an animal can have generally, is when they're breathing, right? Not during a dream. Sometimes their breathing pattern will shift when they're dreaming. But when they just look gently asleep, you'll notice that the belly gets really big as they breathe in, and it gently falls as they breathe out. Okay? And so a diaphragmatic breathing pattern would actually look more like this. Let me see if you can see. From the front, if I were to breathe this way, you would not notice movement in my shoulders, in my neck or throat, or in my chest. Most of the movement would be coming from here. So actually with my inhale and then my exhale. What's happening with that is if we're doing this type of diaphragmatic breathing, the diaphragm actually flattens. It's a big sheet that goes underneath the rib cage from all the way from the spine to the front. It basically separates the thoracic part of your torso from the abdominal part of the torso. And so when it contracts, it flattens down, which increases the pressure in my abdomen. The abdomen then needs to go out to compensate. And then when it relaxes, my abdominal muscles help, and the diaphragm goes back up. So if you think of the lungs as balloons, as you inhale, you're creating a vacuum so that there's more space for air to come in. And And as you exhale, you're helping to push the air out, right? And so it makes a lot of sense when you think about it that way. You're trying to get air in here, but what ends up happening is that you're pushing down all of your organs in the abdomen, so you got to make more space for them. That's why we call this belly breathing. Obviously, the lungs stop right about here. They don't go all the way down to the belly. We're not actually breathing air into our bellies, but there's belly movement to allow for more air in the lungs. If you're finding that this is difficult, it's not your fault. It's actually much harder to do this sitting up. And if you've been breathing this way your whole life, it's hard to even conceptualize breathing differently. So I usually will take my clients in steps to learn this. This is kind of similar to what I learned. I used to think that this was absolutely impossible. My teachers had something wrong until I finally got a teacher that really explained to me how to make this happen. If we are carrying a lot of tension in our diaphragm, or if it's stuck and not used to moving, no amount of intentional thought is going to automatically make that change. We have to be really, really patient with it. And the best thing we can do is encourage our nervous system to relax. If our nervous system is relaxed, our diaphragm will start to relax. It's a little bit harder to do this sitting up because number one, we're more active. Number two, our abdominal muscles have to be a little bit tense in order to keep us upright. So the way that we start practicing this is by laying down. That allows us to relax the abdomen as much as possible. So I'm going to show you really simply laying down here. Hopefully you guys can still see me okay. So I keep my knees bent, and that's because it allows even more relaxation in the abdomen, right? And if it feels comfortable for you, you can put your hands here. And as you inhale, try to see if you can let the belly puff up. And as you exhale, the hands should come down. Again, inhaling. And exhaling. And as you get more comfortable, like I'm getting a little bit more relaxed here, you're going to start to slow it back down. Okay? So go ahead and give that a shot if you haven't already. If you want to pause the video and do that, you can. Now, why do we tend to breathe in a reverse pattern in the chest? Some of it is what I told you, the nervous system, the tension. But also if we think about in Western cultures, it's really common practice for us to teach kids from the time that they're young to suck in their stomachs, especially women. Right? So just add another thing to the list, ladies, of some unlearning and things that we have to fix as we get older. So we walk around, tensing up the stomach, trying to hold everything in, and so there's nowhere else to go. The problem is then we're not using the diaphragm and it gets harder to start to make it out. It's almost like the muscle gets weak, right? So you might have to fight that a little bit. We also, just culturally in general, don't like to stick our stomachs out, don't like to relax here. We think that we always have to be really firm. We do a lot of core work, which can create tension. And we want our abdomen to be strong, the muscles of our abdomen to be strong. The muscles that we use, though, in breathing and in really anytime we're trying to support an upright position are our transverse abdominal muscles. Those muscles are actually much deeper than the six-pack muscles, the rectus muscles that we tend to always think about when we think about our abs. So it's a muscle that goes all the way around, the transverse abs go all the way around, and it helps to hug everything in. So it's a natural fit for those who need to help the diaphragm get air out. The only problem is strength doesn't necessarily mean we're always tensing those muscles. Strength when it comes to the abdomen has to do with, and any part of the body really, has to do with adaptability. Can that part of the body be strong when it needs to be strong and relax when it's time to relax? If we always keep tension in a certain area of the body, it actually fatigues that muscle and it can't be as strong as it needs to be when we need to use it. Right? So I want to encourage you to think about how much tension you tend to hold in your belly day to day. If you have a really active lifestyle. For me, when I was in school and driving a lot on the highway, I ended up with a lot of tension here. It was hard to dissipate that, and that's natural, right? So I had to do a lot of extra work at the end of the day, every day, kind of relaxing everything, letting my nervous system come back to equilibrium, and encouraging these areas in my body that held a lot of tension to relax and rest. So that might be one thing that's holding you back a little bit. If it felt your hands here. So sometimes it's just we don't like to have our hands on our belly. This is an area that a lot of us have shame around. It really irritates me how much this culture has done to just destroy our relationship with our bodies. But it is what it is. And so this is something you want to work towards. But for whatever reason, having your hands here might not be helpful. It might make you uncomfortable, or sometimes we can't really notice the movement on our own body part. Right? It's harder for us to get that proprioceptive awareness. So another thing you can use for feedback is a block. Use a light block. The cork blocks can be a little bit heavy. Another option is like a light blanket rolled up. And you're going to lie down like you did before. And place the block so it is past below the rib cage, kind of in between the ribs and your hip bones. Right? And then you're going to practice the same thing. This time you're trying to get the block to go up. So as you inhale, the block comes up. And as you exhale, the block falls up. And you repeat that a few times. So that's another thing that you might want to give a try. All right, last thing, if you're still finding that to be pretty challenging, and it does take time, so you might not get it on your very first practice or your second or even your third. If you're still finding it to be challenging though, another thing that you can do is prop up the torso so that you have more expansion in the upper body. So I take this blanket, for example. You can also use a bolster if you have one, a couple of pillows even. And you're going to put it on your mat like this. As long as you don't have any issues in your low back, you're going to start to lay back here with the hips in front. If you do have issues with the low back, you can always sit up on the edge instead. So that's another option. Okay? But I'm going to lay back here. I'm going to give a little bit of space so that my low back isn't arching too much. I'm going to lay all the way down so that I'm supported. If you have any issues with your neck, you can roll up the edge of the blanket to support it. Okay? So, from here, you might find that you have a little bit more space. And again, same practice. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling, finding expansion. Exhaling, everything rests and falls in place. This is the body. Okay. Alright, so that's diaphragmatic breathing. Once you get comfortable with doing that lying on the ground, the next step would be to practice that sitting up. I recommend actually starting against a wall so you have some support behind your back. And eventually you'll be able to practice seated without any support and even standing eventually. Yeah, just think of it as the abdominal muscles and the diaphragm working together. So as the diaphragm flattens down, the belly comes out, the abdominal muscles draw in as you exhale to help push air out of the lungs. Right? Simple, not necessarily easy to shift to. I really look forward to hearing how your practice goes